Fears to Fathom Carson House is the third installment in the Fears to Fathom series and follows Noah as he house sits for a friend of his dad's. The game is available on Steam and itch.io. Atmosphere. The game's atmosphere comprises of paranoia and tension, and it sneaks into certain moments with the familiar home invasion feeling you can't help but have. The setup of being alone house sitting nearly guarantees the suspicion that comes along with the setting. It's unnerving, and it does a decent job building tension for some of the game, with checking out the security cameras being tense even when there's nothing there to see. And when it reaches its final act, the apprehension manages to inflict genuine fear for a while. One of the most tense moments comes from just getting dog food in the basement, which, thanks to the darkness and the music, created horror from nothing. But despite some quite high points, the atmosphere suffers heavily from the game's meandering and its bugs. And whilst it's important to remember the game is based on the events told by the person who submitted the story, there are some moments like the convenience store and watching the television show where the atmosphere really stalled. A few glitches cropped up now and then that hurt the immersion, with the enemy AI bugging out several times, and the worst offender was a text prompt saying that you can't go in the garage because the developer was too lazy to render it. It has some quite high points, but the standout moments were the ones that unfortunately didn't help the atmosphere at all. That's no Harry Masons. Scares. Carson House has a few unique moments, with the security cameras providing at least one unsettling jump scare, but the late game really had it all. Some really unsettling moments of realization with the text messages and feeling of not being alone, a pseudo-stealth section which, whilst buggy and punishing, was pretty good when it worked correctly, as well as a genuine sense of fear derived from the game of cat and mouse you play with the antagonist. But again, the first half of the game is pretty devoid of any threatening moments, and some of the best parts of the game still contained bugs. That's still no Harry Masons. Sound design. The game is drenched in this thick, hazy, dark ambient, with haunting tones soaked in reverb and various different synths, with the same effects play on them in different moments, from shrill tones to more string-like sections to fill in the unnerving moments. The game's sound effects were unremarkable with everything functioning properly. There were still some sound space problems, with you being able to hear the dog eating its food several rooms away, but this updated version of the game is significantly better than this was before.
I love me cat food. It's my favorite dish. It's super enjoyable and healthy.
There's no voice acting for the characters in the game, but the TV show voice acting is surprisingly good, and most of the sound design for the television content is again quite high quality. Overall, the sound design was fairly decent. That's one Harry Mason. Gore. There's no gore in the game, and it didn't need any. That's two Harry Masons. Story. The story sees you playing as Noah, a teenager working a house-sitting job for a friend of his dad's. Things start to become unsettling when Noah starts getting strange text messages and some flowers arrive outside the house that he's staying at. The game's story is again user-submitted and supposedly real, which does add a layer of disturbing realism, but the vast majority of the story is filled with meaningless tasks, and when you talk to your friends at the convenience store, it becomes overwhelmingly obvious what's going on, but Noah doesn't seem to clock onto it for a very long time, which made it a little frustrating. The game does have dialogue options, but the story plays out the same way regardless of what you choose, and there are some additional conversations to be had over text, and browsing the computer led to a red herring to obfuscate things, which is as far as the game went to make the story less predictable. It feels like a lot was made out of very little, and the story didn't really feel that interesting at all, making the final score 2 out of 5 Harry Masons. This could have been a really great installment if more time had been put into the important things, but what confounds me the most about this game is how much time went into creating a convenience store and television show, a flag guessing game with music and other things, but stuff like fixing bugs and even the garage were just left unfinished, like the side content is somehow more important than the main game. It's probably the weakest episode of the games that have come so far, and it's a tremendous shame. Again, I'd like to remind you the whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games, and if you don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I won't go house sitting again, I did not leave any pizza and advise you don't either. There will be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. Always go check out Bumps in the middle of the night. Peace.